This is part 2 of my videos on double tiger play, Michy's last proverb in his opening concepts book. Apologies that there's quite so many videos about this, and this is going to be a long video, but it's just such a complex issue. There's so much to be gained in terms of PR success if you get the right moves, that it's worth spending time in it, and I want to spend time in it for my own sake, just to kind of learn it. So what this video is going to entail is the remainder of Michy's positions from the book, plus guidance from Gary Koscielny when he was speaking to sunny Florida Backgammon Club, and Dan Rovira in one of his backgammon, his beautiful videos about double tiger play, which I found very helpful. So I was going to put those three together in this video, and then there'll be two more videos, one about Dirk Schiemann and what he has to say, and one what Bill Roberti has to say. So just a reminder, what tiger play we did earlier in the series, Proverb 6. Tiger play is when you double hit, so you put two of your opponent's checkers on the bar, but you leave a blot on your home board. And a strong tiger play is when you leave a blot where you want to make a point. Weak tiger play is where you leave a blot on the point you don't particularly care about. But double tiger play is when you double hit, as before, but you actually leave two blots in your home board. And I suppose these are the principles we're looking at. And when you start with an example from Dan Rovira, he gives this as an example. And I have to admit, before I'd studied double tiger play, I would have, without a doubt, have come down with the 3 and the 2 for my 13 point, down to make my 8 points. So I would come down with the 3, on with the 2. I'd have thought I was great. But it's just far too passive. We've done nothing to, that idea of fighting for the good point. Black has blots on both our good points, our 5 point and our 4 point, and we've not done nothing to fight for them. So for that reason, it's just too passive. Instead, we put that back, and you probably would well say, look, let's fight for the 5 point by playing in off the 8 point with the 3, and then give ourselves an extra chance of covering that next go by coming down for 13 to 11, putting an extra point there, aiming to cover that in the next go. And that's not a bad move, but Dan Rovira says there's another option we should look at, and that's the double hit. So we'll put instead of going 13 to 11, we'll put that back, and said the other option is to hit with the 6 and playing 6 to 4 and hit the checker on our 4 point as well from the 6 point. And that may look suicidal, but Dan Rovira, it's interesting. Gary Koscielny says that when he was talking about double tiger play, he was saying, look, this is a kind of a least bad situation when you're desperate, there's nothing else you can do, and you kind of go for it. Dan Rovira sees double tiger play as a really good attacking option, and what he does, Dan Rovira in some of his videos does quite very nicely. He takes the positions and the outcomes, and he kind of analyzes the outcomes, and I like the way he does this. So with the aggressive play, the double hit, Black will have 21 out of 36 shots to hit us back. We will win 52% of games, so we're still slightly like to win, and we'll win 23% gammons, which is quite effective. But the big thing is, the big attraction, as I see it from this example here, is the cube action afterwards. So only 9 out of 36 rolls for Black will enter both checkers in the bar. So if Black does dance in the bar and leave and enter neither of them, we double Black passes. If Black enters one checker and doesn't hit us, so they'd have to roll a 2-1 or a 2-3 or a 2-6, so the 6 rolls there. If Black enters only one checker, it's a double and a take. So our cube action is much stronger in this position. And I suppose the figure I just pointed out to you there is 23% gammons in our favour. With the safer play, yes, Black only has 17 return hits. Now, as I said in the last video, that's still a lot of hits. So, sometimes the safer play isn't that safe. We still win exactly 52% of games. So our winning chances are exactly the same. But with the safer play, we only win 20% gammons. And in particular, 27 of Black's rolls enter that one checker that's on the bar is going to enter with 27 rolls. And only 9 fail to enter, and if they fail to enter, and we double, they have a take, whereas in the past, we could actually double and they'd pass and we'd win the point straight away. This one, they have a double and a take, so we can't double them out of the game. We have to play this game regardless if we play the safe move, and for that reason, the correct move is the double hit, and that's Dan Rovira's kind of interesting explanation of it. Now, I said I would look at Michy, Dan Rovira, and Gary Koscielny's advice in this video. I've tried myself to take from this advice and establish some kind of principles of play, and my little double tigers here are going to kind of sum them up. So the first of these is we want to put our blots on the points we want to make. So Gary Koscielny starts with this. This is the one he starts with. And he says, "Well, how would you play a 5-4 at the start here?" And you might, if you want to pause and think about it, and then assuming you've unpaused, well, the correct move with the 5 and the 4 is the 5 comes down 13 to 8, and we split at the back with the 4. You could, Gary Koscielny makes the point, you could hit with the 5, 6 to 1, and you could hit with the 4, 6 to 2, and do the double tiger move. But that is a blunder, and the reason it's a blunder, and as you can see, it's right down the bottom there, 188 millipoint blunder. The reason it's a blunder is because look where those checkers are. Even if we manage to cover them the next go, they're not on the points we want to make. We want to make points, our 5 point, our 4 point, even our 3 point. Those points are not the points we want to make. So he goes on, he takes this position and says, well, instead of starting with this position, what if we started with black has come forward a little bit and is now in that situation there, and we've rolled a 3 and a 2. So now those, where black's blots are now, they are points that are attractive to us. They're not the 5 point, but they're still attractive points to make. So there's options here. You could, I think I certainly would hit with 6 to 4. I think I'd definitely be doing that, even before I'd read about double tiger play. With the 3, I always like to bring an extra builder down from the midpoint, playing 13 to 10. XG kind of says, oh, yes, I'm bringing down an extra builder. I'm also bringing down an extra blot to be hit back. So for that reason, XG usually, when you hit, prefers you not to bring down the extra builder, but to split at the back, like that. Or there's a third option, to play 6 to 3. And so we put that back and play 6 to 3. There's a third option. And rather than have you agonizing, wondering which is best, the answer is they're all much of a muchness. Because we definitely want to hit with 6 to 4. We want to fight for the good point. And then, the 3 point's not bad either. So there's very little in it. But the reason for there's very little in it is because unlike the first roll of the 5 and the 4 and fighting for our 1 point and our 2 point, fighting for our 5 point and our 3 point is much more attractive. And those are the kind of points we want to make. But Gary Koscielny goes on to take this position and even tweak it even slightly and says, the more checkers we have in the zone, the more open we should be to double tiger play. So this was the position we were just in. Look down the bottom left there, we've got 3 checkers and our 8 point. What if we, instead, we were responding, black had gone first and we responded. What if we went first and we played a 4-1, and now we have the same position and the 3-2. Now we have a 9th checker in the zone. And do you think that affects the correct play here? And the answer is absolutely. Now with the 9th checker in the zone, the more aggressive double hitting play, double tiger play is correct, and anything else is a blunder. It is important, next big principle, do your shot counting. We looked at this in the last video, and here's an example here where we've rolled a 5 and a 3. You could come down, again, before I read this, I'd have thought I would probably come down with the 5 and play it on with the 3, next to checker into the zone, next to checker safely in the home board. But look up the top there, black has a lovely 10 checkers in the zone, very good attacking structure. Black might be able to escape their back checkers, even escape one of them. So we need to be a little bit less passive. So let's go back again and say, well, look, we can fight for our 4 point. We can hit from our 7 point to our 4 point. So we use the 3 to hit the checker and our 4 point. And then what do we do with the 5? Well, we can come down with the 5 like that. And that looks kind of probably the safest option here, would you say? Or we can put it back and we can hit with 7 to 2. And what Michy points out, this is actually, Michy gets very excited by this. He says, look, let's count the shots here. With this option, we leave 24 shots. With this option, we leave 23. So actually, the double hit leaves less shots. And it's just a reminder of what I said in the last video. You do have to give a little bit of time to shot counting here if you're going to kind of do the double tiger play. And for that reason, the double hit is right. You've heard me talk about passive throughout this video. Dirk Sheeman, in his book, he always talks about momentum, and it's a key thing. We don't let our opponent have the momentum. Some of these examples, I'm trying to throw in all Michy's examples so you have them all. And sometimes I'm trying to throw a principle at them. So I've sort of made this principle up for this: don't let our opponent have the momentum. We could, again, before I'd read this chapter, looked at my loss on my 8 point and come down from the 13 point with a 4 and a 1 and made that nice and safe. And I thought, well, look, this is good. We're nice and solid there. We're solid, but we don't have the momentum. And black up the top has lots of flexibility and had lots of opportunities to escape back checkers as well. So we risk giving black all the momentum. So let's just put that back there and say, well, look, what would happen if we were to hit? And we can hit on the 5 point use the 1. We can play 6 to 5, hit the checker on our 5 point, and we're in a nice situation like that. We could come down 13 to 9 with the 4, more builders to cover, but a heap more blocks and a heap more chances for black to his back. So we won't even think about that because we know we're actually leaving more shots that way. But instead, the safer play is to play 7 to 3 and do the double hit and leave the double tiger with the 2 blots in our home board. Again, it's as Dan Rovira said, if we aren't hit back, if black doesn't hit us, we have a really strong cube action coming up in the next row. If we are hit back, look, it's not the end of the world. We can go again. It looks scary. 5 blots there, 2 at the top and 3 down the bottom, looks scary, but that's actually safer than bringing another checker down from the 13 point and the correct move. Now, the big question that I think, looking at these, and this isn't from Michy, Gary Koscielny, Dan Rovira, anyone like that. This is just me. As I was doing this, I was reminded very much of Paul McGreal's safe or bold criteria, and in particular a lesson I saw from John O'Hagan about how these should be applied, and I have a little mnemonic I'll show you in a second. So here we have a situation where we rolled a 6 and a 5, and without thinking, I know what I would have done with this over the board in a game with this. I've said, look at the top, our checker and our 24 point, the lover's leap move. We come out with the 6, on with the 5. We do lover's leap and we play from 24 to 13. Not bad. Yes, we might get hit at the bottom, but sure, we'll take a chance. But Paul McGreal's safe versus bold criteria, or bold versus safe criteria, kind of come into play. And I have a little mnemonic I've kind of made for myself, just the first 5 letters of the alphabet. A means, have we got an anchor in our home board? If we have an anchor in our opponent's board. If we have an anchor in our opponent's board, we can be a bit more risky because we know if we get hit, we're going to get back in. B is board strength. Who's got the stronger home board? C is checkers back. Who's got the most checkers back? D is a little tribute to Wicklow, where Wicklow Backgammon is from and where we all live. Where I live anyway. Where all the best people live, maybe. In Wicklow, a lot of people can't pronounce their THs. So instead of saying, I'm going down to the shop, they say, I'm going down to the shop. And I'm going to the pub to play backgammon tonight. So the only way I could get this acronym to work was to do a bit of a creative license here. So the race is the key thing, or as we'd say in Wicklow, the race is what matters. So that's what the D is. And E, is there an extra chances to hit a checker? I have another video made for my little study group I was in about safe versus bold criteria, and there's actually an F and a G. They're not significant in this situation. But if you kind of go through those A, B, C, D, and E, and we look at this position here, well, A, have we an anchor in our opponent's board? Yes, we do. We have the anchor there. B, board strength. Who's got the stronger board? We do. We've made our 5 point. Black hasn't made a point at their home board. C, who's got the most checkers back at the rear end? Well, we have. We've 3 back. Black has only 2. D, who's behind in the race? We're behind in the race. So for that reason, we can afford to be a bit risky. If you're behind in the race, you can you're trying to change things up a bit, so you can afford to take a few risks. And E, is there an extra checker blot lying around from black? We could hit if we get hit. Yes. So if we do a double hit here and do a double tiger and get hit back, look up at the top right there. Black has a blot there on their 2 point, our 23 point. So if we get hit, we also have a chance, of a fighting chance of hitting them back and turning things around to the race that way as well. So for that reason, we can be a bit more adventurous. So if we're going to be more adventurous, rather than doing the lover's leap move with the 6-5, let's hit with the 6. So the black's checker on the 4 point. We have a blot on our 10. We can bring that in and hit. There's the 6 used. Now what do we do with the 5? Well, the olden days you could say, well, look, 13 to 8, come down with that. Don't even consider it. That leaves so many shots, as you can imagine, or that blot up in the top left there is so vulnerable. So we'll put that back. We're just as well just hitting with 6 to 1 and playing the double tiger play. And as all Paul McGreal's safe versus bold criteria come to play, they all say we need to be play boldly, aggressively here. And if we were to be hit back, we get a chance of hitting that black blot up in the top right, which is quite nice as well. If again, I said some of these positions, I just wanted to give you Michy's positions, and we've kind of already. This is just saying about kind of shot counting again. As we've seen before, more home board blots can mean less hitting numbers. So this is a position I just wanted to show you. The 5 and the 1, I have to admit again, before I'd read this chapter, I'd probably have played the 1 at the back and just made a little anchor in the opponent's home board, and then the 5 really has to come down like that. But it's very inflexible, and it's going to lead to a lot of problems later on. So it's, even if you put that checker, I played 13 to 8, if I put that checker back about 13 point and played 6 to 1, I'm not really sure why you'd do that. You're giving black a free shot at hitting in the 1 point. It's putting a checker where we don't want to make a point. It's an unnecessary level of aggression that we don't need because we were ahead in the race. All the Paul McGreal's criteria count against us now, or most of them do. So we'll put that back and just see, is there something else we can play? Well, let's think about double tiger. We certainly want to fight for our 5 point, and we can fight for that with. Just go back to the start there. 6 to 5 fights for our 5 point, and you could play 13 to 8 down like that, and say, well, look, it's a safer play than putting it back there and hitting with 8 to 3. But Michy gets really excited about this. He said that position there leaves 23 hitting numbers for black. If we had brought the checker down from 13 point to 8 instead, it leaves 24. And he thinks this is just, and he's right. This is very exciting that by leaving more blots around the home board, we're actually giving black less shots. I just had a little look at, well, what happens if you'd played, we played 6 to 5. Could you play the 5 from 6 to 1? But again, think about it. Why would we hit the deeper checker just for the sake of it? It's a blunder to do that because we can hit on the 3 point rather than the 1 point. The 3 point is a more attractive point to make. So for that reason, that's the correct move. Now, next precept, I suppose, and another position I just want to show you is where the double tiger might be better than making a point. We've talked about making a point is better than hitting loose, and making a point in our home board is a good thing. But sometimes a double tiger hit might be better than making the point behind where the action is. So this is a situation like this. We rolled a 5 and a 3, and you could play the 5 and 3, make our 3 points. So you come in 8 to 3 and 6 to 3, make our 3 point. But think about it from black's point of view. If black rolls a 4 in the next go, they'll anchor up on our 5 point, and that point we've made in a 3 point is just out of the game. It's just wasted. So also, I suppose you could say black gets a 6. They're going to hit our blot in the bottom left there. So again, it's not a particularly good thing to do. So let's just go back there. What else we could do? Well, we can play 8 to 5. We know we want to fight for the good points, so we play 8 to 5. You could come in. I don't know if you moved that quite quickly there, but I played 11 to 6, and now there is a stack. I don't know if you can see this, an extra checker on our 6 point. We've now got a big mountain. Why would we make a mountain? Michy says, playing 11 to 6. So we'll put that back. We could play down 13 to 8. That actually doesn't really improve our chances of covering the blot at all on our 5 point, and it leaves our midpoint stripped. So we'll go back to that. Or you could unstack the 6 point, which Michy loves. We've talked about breaking the mountain pretty much throughout this video series. So 6 to 1 breaks the mountain. Michy says he does point out that we've now left a blot in our 1 point, and he says, look, the blot in the 1 point is not ideal. But he says, look, there's no good solution here, and this is the best of a bad lot of options, playing the double tiger play like that. And it is the right move. But he does note in this position that you should never leave a blot in the ace point with a double tiger move unless you have at least 10 checkers in the zone. So if you look at it here, if you want to count down the bottom, we have 10 checkers down the bottom there. So we do have 10 checkers in the zone. But if that was the starting position, we took that starting position and we moved that back a little bit. Now we've only got 8 checkers in the zone. Do you do 6 to 5 and 6 to 1? No, we've only 8 checkers in the zone. We've now dumped a checker on the ace point, which is just not going to be easily covered, or even if it is covered, it achieves very little. So for that reason, the best thing is 6 to 5 is good. We're fighting for the 5 point, but we do bring another checker down this time just to have more ammunition in the zone. And there's your move. This last precept is not something that I've heard any of the commentators say, but it's just something that seems to apply every time. And so this is, I always say I don't claim to be a backgammon expert by any means, but it definitely seems to me that if there's something else constructive that we can do, we probably are going to do this rather than the risky double tiger move. So here's an example here. I think this comes from Michy again. Yeah, we rolled a 6 and a 3. We've 4 blots. We can shrink that down to 1 blot. If you look up we have the blot up in the top left there on our 17 point. If we play that on with the 6, that covers the blot on our 11 point. We've made that nice and safe. We can also cover the other blot down the bottom left on our 10 point by playing 13 to 10. Now we've got a nice strong position with a lot of blocking points. Black is going to struggle to escape out of that. Black is not really a threat up the top there yet either, so we might be able to escape our back checker. We hope to escape our back checker before black can get established there. So that's a really good constructive thing to do. The alternative, if you were giddy on a kind of a high of double hitting, double tiger excitement, you could say, well, look, we can hit black's blot in our 4 point by playing in from our 10 point, so 10 to 4 hits black's blot. And you think, ooh, double tiger, let's go for this. I can play 6 to 3 and hit. I could do that, but we're now giving black a great chance to get back into the race, where it's a double tiger is risky. We don't need to take the risk. We've had a good constructive alternative, and for that reason, we don't go near double tiger. It's down the bottom there, 203 millipoint blunder. Let's not go near it. So finally, apologies for such a long video, but I just thought you might like to have a test yourself question of your own just at the end of this. So again, this is a position from Michy, just so you can look at the very end of it. If you want to pause the video, how would you play this? And assuming you've unpaused, well, look at the number 6. We have awful 6s here. I suppose you could play 8 to, the only ones that'll move, there's only 2 possible 6s. You can play 8 to 2. I'm not sure why would you do that, and you're leaving blots everywhere. Yeah, I suppose you could play 6 to 1 there and play it's kind of a double tiger, but God, you're absolutely in trouble if you get hit in the slightest, because there's so many other blots out there as well. So let's just put that back there. There's one, we don't want to fight for the 2 point or the 1 point anyway. What we can do is we can play 11 to 5 and fight for our 5 point. So black has a blot in our 5 point. We can use the 6 to come in from the 11 point and hit that. That's definitely the right thing to do. Now what do we do with the 5? Well, again, if you've wanted to pause, and assuming you've unpaused, you could come down 13 to 8 and bring an extra checker in the zone, but we already have 11 checkers in the zone, so we don't need to be kind of worrying too much about that. Instead, we have 6 checkers. I don't know if you can see the 6 checker on our 6 point. Let's unstack, let's break the mountain. So 6 to 1 does wonderful work for us in terms of breaking the mountain. And we have 11 checkers in the zone. Remember the principle we applied earlier on that you said you have to have at least 10 if you're going to leave a blot on the ace point. We have 11, so we're strong enough here. And for that reason, that's the correct thing to do. I'm sorry this video has been quite so long. I'm sorry that there's 4 videos in this series, but I want to get on top of this. I want to learn this double tiger principle well. I don't want to just kind of gloss over it. So for this reason, thank you for your patience. I hope that makes sense. And I'm off now to look at Dirk Sheehan. It'll probably be about a week before I've studied that correctly, and there'll be another video up about that.